Hey, what's going on? This is Troy, and this is the Planet 76 podcast, your source for Sixers news, highlights, hot takes, and more. Welcome to the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Planet 76, episode 45, I believe. Episode 45. I got Michael here with me. My name's Troy, and we are your two hosts for Planet 76. Looking forward to another great episode. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. We are glad that you are checking us out. You can follow us on Instagram, Planet 76 Podcast. You can hit us up there. You can DM us. We are very active on Instagram. You can certainly follow and subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you are listening, watching, please do us a favor, drop us a rating. That would be very much appreciated, and certainly subscribe so you can be ready for more episodes coming your way. Michael, first question: Have you been getting into some March Madness? I got my March Madness shirt on right now. Because I love March Madness, and the Peacocks of St. Peter's are going to the Elite Eight, literally just as of 2 minutes ago. So how does that make you feel? How's your bracket? Let's hear it all.
I like that shirt, by the way. I noticed that when you pop on the camera. I like that shirt a lot. Yeah, Troy and I were talking about it off air. Just to keep things short, all of my brackets are destroyed. I have about 7 total. I'm in 2 pools. I made 2 for fun. And they're all they're done. It's over. My March Madness hopes of success are down the drain. And, yeah. I don't know. Maybe, I'm done.
The Peacocks, baby.
I'm finished. Oh,
St. Peter's Peacocks. Yeah, I hear that.
First 15 seed to make
no one else is
the Elite Eight.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. That's why it's called Madness for a reason. That's for sure.
The madness.
So yeah, St. Peter's. There's 2 games going on at the Wells Fargo Center today. We're recording on Friday, March 25th. Neither of those games are the 76ers. 76ers are on the West Coast. In case you didn't know, we're just going to talk about the last
good transition.
Last few games for the 76ers, and even look ahead to what's to come. Take a peek at the Eastern Conference standings as we're now just 10 games away from the playoffs. Again, last regular season game just, I think, a week and a half into April. So we're getting close, about 2 weeks out of the end of the regular season. So, yeah. So the Sixers, that's 3 games we're going to talk about. They went 2-1. They dropped one at home against the Raptors. I was watching March Madness, full disclosure. I turned it on at the end, and it really just pissed me off. So I don't know what else to say about that one, but the Sixers couldn't get it done at the end.
Yeah.
What? I don't know. What did I miss?
Yeah, I mean, I was at work, so I also didn't catch too much of the game, but from what I saw, the Raptors just defended really well, and the Sixers, made some errors, one being a hardened foul at the end, which was a flagrant, which was kind of questionable in terms of the status of that foul. Like, again, they called it a flagrant foul, which, I'm not so sure. But anyway, Harden fouled. I think it was Chris Boucher kind of elbowed him when he was on his way to the basket for a layup. And, it probably could have been called a charging foul. Like, that would have been a little more acceptable, I think, but again, it is what it is. And the Raptors just defended really well, especially Embiid. I think he had a pretty off night from the field. But honestly, you take him and you run with him. But that was on Sunday. I watched that game. Never mind. I'm thinking of the Heat game. Okay. I did watch that game, but even still, nothing too noteworthy aside from the loss, obviously.
Right.
And
I'm looking at the numbers now. Sixers were 7 for 27 from 3. The Raptors were 7 for 26 from 3. All in all of the 8 quarters total, so 4 quarters for each team times 2. 4 of those quarters featured a point total of 20 or less. So the Raptors scored 12 in the third quarter. The Sixers' second, third, and fourth quarter were 17, 20, and 14. So to your point,
that's not going to get it
that's
done.
not going to get it done. And to your point, the Raptors defense obviously came out looking pretty good. So 93-88 in that one. I forget who, but we did get free Frosties at the end. I did catch that. I forget.
It was Precious Achua.
Yeah, there were very big free throws missed from him.
Oh man.
So, and then following that one, we had an exciting game before hitting the West Coast. So, Sixers, it was a back-to-back, I believe.
Yeah, it was Sunday, Monday.
Sunday, Monday, take on the Miami Heat at home. No Joel Embiid, no James Harden. And this was, I was looking at the standings. I was counting down the games. I was like, okay, there's like 2.5 games difference between us and the Heat. If we lose this one, it's not looking like we're going to compete for the 1 seed and maybe even fall to the 3-4 wherever. But it wasn't the case. Somehow the Sixers come out with a W in this one. Why don't you give a couple shout-outs? Who played well in this one?
Well, first shout-out I would like to give to is Tyrese Maxey for obvious reasons. He more or less willed that Sixers team to victory in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Multiple clutch plays on offense and defense, actually.
Yep.
And then secondarily, is that a word? I don't know. But I would like to give a shout-out to Shake Milton and Furkan Korkmaz, and also George Niang because he played really well too. Shake and Furk got increased minutes and they played really well. Both have been pretty inconsistent, this season for the most part. And I was glad to see them kind of make a resurgence in terms of their normal play. What we expect from Shake is 10, 12, 13 points a night. I think he gave 20. Furk had a really nice night as well. I think he had around 15, 16. He had some clutch threes as well, so that's really good. And yeah, just a really solid overall game. Again, you are not expecting the Sixers to win that game, especially because they just played the Heat probably 2 weeks ago from this past Sunday, and they lost. It was a blowout, I think. And they had Embiid. I think Harden didn't play, but regardless. And one thing to note as well, the Heat had their entire roster this time around, which they haven't had at all this year in the 3 or 4 meetings that they've had with the Sixers. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, Bam, and Kyle Lowry all played. They had their bench. Everybody played for the most part. I think they were missing Markieff Morris, but I mean, nothing too noteworthy there. And it was just a very, very impressive win. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, it was an impressive win. It was a fun one to watch. Shake Milton and Furkan Korkmaz, that was just very, very good to see. With all the, obviously, the last 2-3 weeks of James Harden and, the MVP race and Joel Embiid and how well Maxey's playing, a lot of times those guys get overlooked. But, they are important to this team, and if they're doing that, it's going to do big things for this team. Again, we won this game without Joel Embiid, without James Harden, and Shake and Furkan combining for 38 played a massive role in that one. So that's just, you can't say it enough how big they might be to this Sixers team success moving forward. Tyler Hero, pretty much, he was the matchup that everyone was looking to exploit down the stretch in the fourth, and the Sixers did a good job of attacking him. As you mentioned, Maxey willing the team to victory, offense, defense. He was just getting into it with the crowd. It was, really, really cool. He's such a fan favorite. You can't say enough about him either.
For obvious reasons.
Yep.
And rightfully so.
Yep. So that brought the Sixers, again, kind of still in contention, obviously, within the Eastern Conference and how things are going to shake out. And then the Sixers were able to get a win. So they're playing 2 games in LA across 3 days. Tonight against the Clippers, which we do not have covered in this episode for you, but they did beat the Lakers. What day was that? Wednesday night. beat the Lakers
Wednesday night
without LeBron James. What stood out in that one?
Nothing really too noteworthy. I did actually watch most of this game. I just didn't watch the fourth quarter because I was just really tired. I went to sleep. Nothing really too noteworthy. I mean, it was a little bit closer than I would have liked. Sixers had some decent sized leads, especially in the second and third quarter, but it ended up being a 5-point game. Only 126-121 was the final score, and I don't know, a little bit shaky. It was just Russell Westbrook and the G Leaguers out there, which you would like to see the Sixers maybe bust the brakes off them, and they were hanging in a little too long. Way longer than they should have is what I should say. And again, a win is a win, especially this late in the season. You'll take it, but you definitely would like to see them beat a team like that a little more handedly than they did.
Right, yeah. Russell Westbrook had 24. Dwight Howard had 24 in that one.
He was going off.
Yeah, that was odd.
That was crazy.
Carmelo had 20. Malik Monk had 23. It was a high-scoring game. Lakers had 3 quarters of 30-plus. Sixers also had 3 quarters of 30-plus. But, yeah, I mean, it was, again, a 5-point game. I don't remember exactly how it got to 5, but it probably took me till about I remember saying it, 2.5, 3 minute mark. I think the Sixers were up 9 or 10. I was like, okay, we got this one. But like you said, it shouldn't have taken that long to say, okay, we got this one.
Yeah.
So that was a little interesting. But Sixers do come out with the win. And again, continuing the road trip in LA tonight against the Clippers, followed by a trip to Phoenix against the Phoenix Suns. And then I think we get the Bucks. No. Yes, the Bucks at home.
Man.
So what we should do, though, and I have a couple questions with this, but right before we went live, I took a peek at the Eastern Conference standings, and I've come to some conclusions.
Okay, I'm interested in hearing them.
Okay,
I'm very interested in hearing those.
They're not very maybe conclusions is the wrong word. They're kind of just obvious statements, but anyway.
Okay.
So the way the Eastern Conference is breaking down, I see it in standings wise, not who's gonna win wise, but standings wise, I see it in 3 tiers, just based off who's whatever games back of what. So I see tier number 1 standings is the 1 through 4 seeds, who are a game and a half of separation between the Heat, Bucks, Sixers, and Celtics. A game and a half separating those top 4. So again, based on that, Sixers, Celtics, Heat, and Bucks are going to fall somewhere into 1 through 4. It's very, very tight to see who's going to be where. The second tier, if you look at it, is the Chicago Bulls, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Toronto Raptors, who it's interesting because there's only a game of separation between those 3 teams, but one of those teams is going to end up in the play-in. So that's 5, 6, 7. One of those teams, the Bulls, the Cavs, and the Raptors, are going to end up in the play-in, although there's only a game of separation between them. So one of them is going to end up in the play-in. And then Tier 3, which is the back end of the play-in tournament, again, because there's between 7 and 8, there's 3 games of separation. So you got the Nets, the Hornets, and the Hawks, who are going to be a game and a half of separation between those 3. So it's really pretty clear. There's 3 tiers, and we don't know who's going to land where, but we know they're going to be somewhere in that tier. So 8, 9, and 10 is the Nets, Hornets, Hawks as it sits right now. Man, so what's your initial thoughts on the tiers of the Eastern Conference standings and where the Sixers are right now and that kind of thing? Because there's only 10 games left.
I would like to see, I'm sure they will, but I would really like to see the Sixers stay relatively close to where they're at, whether it's maybe going up 1 or moving down 1, because I believe they're, 4 right now?
They are listed at 3. They are, so the Celtics are 4, but again, both teams are a game and a half back of the Heat. Okay.
Well, either way, 2 and 4, I I don't know if the 1 seed is a target for them. I don't know if it should be because, I mean, do they really want to see the Nets in the first round? I'm not so sure. And
you're already getting to my next question. Yep.
And I think even a 2 seed would work, especially when you'd be getting, I think at this point it would be the Raptors, which is a little bit more favorable, I think, than the Nets. Mm-hmm. And then as a 4, you'd get the Cavs, which bring it all day because I think the Cavs are now. I don't want to use the term frauds because I feel like I sometimes use that term too loosely. Mm-hmm. But I just they don't fear. I don't fear the Cavs. They don't strike fear in me. And I don't think they do in the Sixers either. I mean, I just don't think that's a team that the Sixers would really mind playing in the first round. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So even the Cavs, and I think that 7 through 10 playing tournament is going to be nuts. Yeah. That is going to be even more so than the Western Conference playing tournament. It's going to be crazy.
Right. So the play-in, correct me if I'm wrong, so it's where the standings fall at the end of the year. It's 7 versus 8. The winner gets the 7 seed. And
I think it might be...
And then I think the loser of that plays the winner of the 9-10. I think.
Okay. I think you're right, actually.
So, again, the Nets... because, again, I think... if the Nets can lose 1 and then win 2 and get in, or win 1 and get in, regardless, again, you get rewarded for being the 7 or 8 in this scenario because if you lose, you get another chance. But the Nets sitting at 8 right now are only a half game away from being in that 9 spot, meaning if they lose, they're done. Mm-hmm. Anyone can lose 1 game.
Yeah. That is very true, especially when it's not a playoff. It's not a playoff series. It's 1 game, and it has nothing to do with, there's no series going on. It's 1 game, so it's like the NFL playoffs, right? Anything can really happen. Even March Madness, right. It's like March Madness. Anything can happen, especially when it's 1 game elimination. Yeah. I mean, elimination in this sense of them, having to play again or possibly being knocked out.
Right. So I would love to see the Nets fall into the 9-10 and, have to win twice. Wow. Mm-hmm. That would be awesome.
Wow. That would be crazy.
If that is what it is. I'm going to have to look right after this.
I actually do think it is that because I think that makes a lot of sense. I think it is that.
You should reward the 7-8, a little bit more. I don't know what other way they would do it other than that. So that's certainly something to mention, but you hit on my next question. So the Nets, they have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I don't care what the record is. I don't care what seed they are right now. That's not the reward you want if you're the 1 seed or the 2 seed or the 3 seed, wherever they are.
Oh.
So is that now? Again, we can hypothetical this all day long, but is that the determining factor for where you want to be is just away from them in the first round kind of thing?
I don't think necessarily so. I think it definitely plays a role, but I don't think the Sixers are. I don't think any team wants to necessarily duck any other team in the playoffs. I just think that from a team's standpoint and a coaching, roster, overall team kind of standpoint, I think there are more favorable matchups than others. And in the playoffs, you want the most favorable matchup for your team in order to advance. And that's not saying that you want the worst team, because a lot of times you'll have a 6 seed who matches up better against a 4th seed as opposed to a 7 seed. Like last year, and even the year before with the Clippers Mavs. I mean, I'm pretty sure they ended up as a 4-5 both years, or maybe it was 3-6, I'm not sure. But that's, for both teams, that's a favorable matchup because Luka just eats them alive. And right back with Kawhi. I mean, who's guarding Kawhi on that team,
Right.
So there are matchups that are more favorable than others despite seeding. So I think a lot of teams choose a more favorable matchup as opposed to a team that they want to, avoid, quote unquote avoid.
Right. Yeah, I I would prefer not to see the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. I'd prefer not to see them in the second round. You know what I mean? Like, I don't...
I mean, ideally, you don't want to see them ever. Ideally, you want them gone by the second round,
But, I mean, how... Take the Nets out of the equation, how badly do you want home court advantage throughout the playoffs possibly? Again, because, one, we've talked about the standings, but, like, let's keep in mind here, there's 10 games left, and the Sixers are 1 game back in the loss column of the Miami Heat. Like, this is anyone's 1 seed to get.
It's go time, yeah.
Now, the Sixers have a tough stretch of games here that we've mentioned, especially across this next week, but how much do you want that? How much is it like, well, if we're the 4, that's okay too. If we're the 3, that's, Yeah. What's your thought on that?
You definitely want home court advantage, and I think I don't want to put a lesser emphasis on it because it's still really important in the playoffs, regardless of your team. But I think with Harden, it could be less important because last year it was more important due to certain circumstances, due to roster construction. You needed a cushion, and this year I'm not necessarily saying the Sixers don't need a cushion because, like I said, every team could use it. But I think this year, there's opportunity to sort of get away with maybe missing out on home court advantage or whatever the case may be. And like I said, what I will say is I do think it's important, and ultimately every team wants that because it just makes the playoffs a little bit easier. But I don't necessarily think it's like the end all be all. And to be honest, I don't think the Sixers will fall out of a top 3. Even 4 seed, like I mentioned earlier.
Right, yeah. So they're safe first round. They're going to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's just going to come down to if they end up 2, if they end up 4, if they drop to 5, which, again, I don't think is going to happen.
Right.
So we'll see.
We will.
We'll see.
We shall see. Yeah, any thoughts on... So, again, obviously, a couple big ones coming up. Suns and then the Bucks. And that obviously could play a factor. Sixers are 45-27 as we sit here Friday night, the 25th, and the Bucks are 46-27. That could certainly play a factor in how things shake out in the Eastern Conference. Any thoughts on those 2 games real quick? And then I've got one more thought for you to ponder.
Well, I think these games are both very important because I kind of want to just beat the Suns because they're really good, and I think it would be a great test for the Sixers. And the Bucks,
it would feel
Sixers
good.
beat them last time before the All-Star break, and I think a similar feeling because the Bucks, I don't think the Bucks record is a good indicator. I think they're much better than the record, and I think beating them again with Harden is something that's going to really, I think, put the icing on the cake for the whole Sixers versus Bucks this season. And again, with standings, I think when do they play the Bucks? Next Monday? Not next Monday, like 2 days from now.
Let me see.
Or when is that?
I'll pull it up here in just a second. So we play, obviously, the Clippers tonight. If you're listening, you already know what the Clippers outcome is. We play the Suns on Sunday, and then the Bucks on Tuesday.
Okay. Well, depending on how many games they have left, that not left. What I meant to say was in between now and then, it could definitely have a really big implications. Implications could be pretty high on the result of that game, whether it's a win for the Bucks or the Sixers. It could be the difference between hopping from one seed to another if you're the Sixers, or dropping down if you're the Bucks. If the Sixers do end up winning, they could leapfrog the Bucks. But if the Bucks end up winning, they could sink the Sixers down a little bit. And especially if the Celtics keep winning, Sixers could fall down to 5, right?
They could fall down to 4. They're safe from 5.
4? Okay. Oh, really?
Pretty
Oh, because
right.
because the Cavs are way far behind.
Right. Yeah. So there's a game and a half between 1 through 4, and then there's the Cavs are 5
Right.
back. Their Bulls are 5 back.
Oh,
Cavs
okay.
are 6 back. I'm just thankful that we're out of that 4-5. Because like that could have, if the Bulls would have stayed hot, that could have potentially been a Sixers Celtics, and the Celtics are red hot, and that would have been a little scary of a 4-5. Just saying.
The East is just so crazy this year. I was not expecting this at all. I just thought it was going to be like Nets, maybe Bucks. Like I've said on this podcast, Nets, Bucks.
Yeah.
But now it's Sixers with Harden. Oh, here come the Heat.
Yeah.
Here come the Celtics. Like it's crazy.
Celtics are
crazy.
hot at the right
really
time.
is.
They really are. So, the Heat are losers of 2 straight, Sixers winners of 2 straight, Celtics winners of 5 in a row. And, again, they are trending upward, currently a game and a half back of the Heat as well as the Sixers. Whew. One final nugget for you.
Okay.
And it's going to be a nugget that I want you to open. or maybe an Easter egg. We're getting close to Easter. It's an Easter egg that you need to open.
Close to Easter.
I'm just going to say 2 words.
Oh.
And then you have total control after I say these 2 words. And these words are DeAndre Jordan.
Well, I don't really have much to say. What I will say is that I think he's just not good. I don't think he's good. I've caught some flack on my page for saying that because I mean I don't know why. I don't know if people are watching the same game as me, but he comes in the game, he checks in, he fouls constantly, gets a few rebounds, and then fouls some more. He's he can catch a lob here and there. I watched the Lakers game, he was doing it. The Raptors game, he did it a little bit, and it's just like I don't know. I really am struggling to find what Doc Rivers sees in DeAndre. I mean, yeah, sure, he's an NBA player. All NBA players are good to an extent. But he's to the point where he doesn't really provide you much on either end of the court. Mm-hmm. So what is he there for is really my question, Like, why is he on the court? I don't get it.
Well said, my friend. Well said.
Thanks. Thank you. I mean, what do you like? Let me hear what you like. What do you think about that? Because I can't. I know I'm not the only one, but in the sense, like I know I can't be the only one anyway. Even if I was the only one,
he's been bad. He's just been bad. Like you said, there's moments where he catches a lob and you're like, yeah, go DeAndre, okay. But outside of that, there's a lot of miscues, mental lapses. Because again, it's not just his age or whatever you want to say, but like, we talked about last episode after the game against the Nuggets, Jokic just briskly walks by him to the lane and gets a layup because he just wasn't paying attention. He wasn't, man and ball, like paying attention to what's going on. Elementary stuff, literally. And I think my biggest problem, and, we mentioned when we signed DeAndre Jordan, like what we wanted to see and how we wanted to see like the minutes play out for the big men. And it's not what it is right now. What we desired is not what it is. We desired for a little bit of DeAndre Jordan, I guess, and some B-ball Paul. We wanted Paul Reed.
Not the slightest.
So my issue is that we haven't seen Paul Reed, and I'm fearful that, like, it doesn't matter how bad it gets with DeAndre in the playoffs, Paul Reed's not going to get in. It's just like, why?
Yeah,
that's a concern.
Like I said, I don't understand what the fascination is with DeAndre. Is because he's a veteran? Is because has he been to a finals at all on any team?
I don't think so.
I was gonna say, is it because he has finals experience?
Conference finals, I guess.
Conference finals, yeah, with the Clippers. Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I would love to make something up, but I don't. I can't. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, my biggest thing is that Paul Reed's not getting minutes, and we haven't seen him. I don't think, right? I mean, we haven't. It's DeAndre Jordan's
For a very short amount of
He's
times.
getting the backup minutes.
Yeah.
He got I forget what game did Joel sit against Miami. Let me look at the box score of that
Miami,
real quick.
yeah.
So DeAndre Jordan did not start. We just went really. Paul Millsap. Don't even get me started there. DeAndre Jordan played 25 minutes. Paul Reed did not play.
What was DeAndre's stat line, real quick?
25 minutes, 2 points, 8 rebounds, 1 for 4 from the field. That's about it. He was a +7, shockingly. But yeah, he just has not been good. Against LA, he had 9 and 7 in 14 minutes. That's not terrible. Stat numbers wise. And again, I think it's beyond the numbers for him because you just see him out there and he does something stupid. 9 and 7 in 14 minutes numbers wise is good.
And I mean, that's what you were saying. Like, it goes beyond the stat sheet. Like, you can't really see how many times he got blown by. Can't really see how many times he missed a shot block attempt, fouls. I mean, fouls are stats, but like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So.
DeAndre Jordan.
I don't think I hope he doesn't come back. He seems like a great guy, but he cannot be back next season, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. So I mentioned that I'm nervous about DeAndre Jordan's minutes in the playoffs, and again, those are going to be shorter minutes. But there's still minutes. We remember I guess it was Amir Johnson days against the Raptors. I mean, I've mentioned it before when that was disastrous. The Sixers lost to the Raptors because of those minutes Joel was off the floor. He was literally like a -100. It was insane. So they're meaningful. They're smaller, but like, are you fearful that it's DeAndre Jordan's minutes and nobody else's?
To an extent, yes, because like I said, Doc favors those older players for some reason. And yeah, we saw it in the playoffs a couple of years. Amir Johnson, Greg Monroe.
Ugh.
I mean, literally, I have a shirt hanging on my wall. 2019 playoff Sixers. Greg Monroe was on the roster. Amir Johnson was on the roster. So we've seen this before.
What about what's the guy Simmons' first name?
Jonathan Simmons. Well, he wasn't a big though. He was
right.
He was
in that, and then I remember watching him in the TBT, the basketball tournament on ESPN, like 2 months later. I was like, he was on our team in the Eastern Conference semifinals like a month ago.
Boban. Yeah. So, like I said, and like you both said, we've seen it before, and we're hoping history does not repeat itself.
Right, and I guess if we do not want DeAndre out there that bad, maybe the hope is that game 1 of the playoffs, he's a -40 with 0.2 rebounds in 12 minutes and
3 fouls.
Yeah, and just something horrendous that Doc almost it comes out of Doc's hands to where it's like, no, DeAndre, he's playing that bad that it's so clear, even to Doc. We shall see, my friend. 10 games left in the regular season. The playoff push is on. I can't wait. So, yeah, make sure you join us.
Very exciting.
On the next episode of Planet 76, and we'll take another look at these Eastern Conference standings, break down some Sixers action against top teams in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference, the finals, rematch. They're not playing each other. We're playing them, the Suns and the Bucks. So, be sure to tune in next episode of Planet 76. Peace. You just listened to an episode of the Planet 76 podcast. Hey, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. Whatever platform you're on, why don't you hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.